G'day guys, this is Tim here. Today I just thought I'd give you a rundown on what I keep in my woodcutters kit. Now this video isn't meant to be a comprehensive video as to what you should keep in your woodcutters kit. It's just what I keep in mine, and you can either take from it or leave from it what you want. You might have more or fewer items, it just depends on your situation cutting firewood. So the main purpose of this kit is, it is quite gear heavy, and the idea behind that is I can just throw it on the back of the ute, go wherever I'm collecting firewood, and it could be quite a ways away, and you might think you just need a certain bit of gear, and then you get out there and realise that you actually would like something else as well, and the idea is it doesn't matter because everything is in this kit, so you've always got it, no matter what situation you come across. So let's get started here. What do we got? First things first, I've got this bag, and this is just full of chainsaw sharpening kit. So I've got files, guides, everything you need to sharpen a chainsaw. I've got different sized files for different sized chains. So that's number one. Let's see. Number two is a pair of chainsaw chaps. Now I like the steel ones. I don't use these that much when I'm chopping firewood. I have a pair of steel chainsaw pants that I wear. I use those at work, so I prefer to use those, but I keep these chaps in here just for anybody else that might be working with me. One thing to note with chainsaw chaps is if you don't have a pair, you should get a pair. They're pretty expensive, but they're well worth the money spent, I think. I don't use them religiously, I should, but it's up to your discretion basically. It can only take one little slip with a chainsaw to really do some damage. So I'd recommend the chainsaw chaps. Earmuffs, I think that's a pretty common sense item. I keep a big hammer in here, and that's just to help with driving wedges sometimes. It's pretty handy. Wire brush, that's for cleaning out my file. It's also pretty good for cleaning chains that get dirty, and just equipment. I've got a few spare chains in here, different sizes for different saws. Husqvarna and Stihl. And if they're in the box, they're sharp, ready to go. Is the idea anyway. I mean, it doesn't always happen, but that's them there. Toilet paper. That's a pretty important one to have in the box. Depending on where you're cutting firewood, you're probably quite a ways away from a toilet facility, and so having a toilet paper can save a lot of uncomfortable time in the bush, so to speak. I keep a bag, and this has just got pen and paper and Sharpie in it, just if you need to write anything down or whatever. Don't really use it much, but there's no weight in the box, it's worth having it in there. First aid kit. This is just a little travel bag that I've kitted out with first aid stuff. It's mainly focused on bandages and trauma wounds, which is pretty much the main sort of injury you're going to get out cutting firewood. It's not as comprehensive as I'd like, but it'll do the job. Maybe something to be worked on later. Hopefully you never need to use it. Thankfully I never have, but it's a good thing to have as well. I've also got paracetamol in here as well, so sometimes you get a headache, and that can be good to have. Work gloves. I've got a bunch of different pairs. I normally keep my work gloves in the ute I'll be travelling in, and these are mainly for spares for people that are working with me, or if I don't have mine in the ute or for whatever reason, there's plenty here to use as well. Let's see. I've got a back brace here, and this goes around your waist above your shoulders, and it gives support to the lower back when you're lifting. I don't really use it much, as you can probably tell, but I do have 2 slip discs in my back already, and it's just there if I need to, or if some old fart's working for you, give him that. I carry a small hatchet with me. This can be used for driving wedges, cutting up kindling, for a fire you might have while you're working. Handy to have. Also got our saw, hand saw in here. Don't know why, it just is. Plastic wedges. Now these things are great if you've never used them before. These are brand new, these ones, or just about brand new. The ones I use normally in the work vehicle. But these are great because you can drive the wedge into the timber, and it doesn't matter if you hit it with a chainsaw. It won't ruin the chain. So these are fantastic to have. There are limitations with these, which I'll touch on in a tick though as we move along. So in here I've got just tools required for working on a chainsaw. Your chainsaw tools, spark plug remover, screwdrivers. One thing that you guys should have in your toolkit, and I know a lot don't, are these little grease guns, and these are for greasing the end of your bar. If you have a little hole at the end of the bar, then that means it needs to be greased, and you put this in and pump it, and that stops it from seizing up. I always thought it was a bit of a gimmick, not something that you really needed to do, because I'd ran saws for a long time and never did it and never had any problems. But then I did have a problem and seized up the big bar in my Husqvarna, so grease them up, lads, grease them up. I keep my brush cutter harness in here, mainly because it's just kept in here. Not really a firewood processing item. File. Now you want a good file. This is a Wiltshire, made in Australia, I'm pretty sure. It's quite an old one. And these are great for putting edges on your axes. Pretty invaluable. You want one of these in your toolkit. Make sure you keep it covered in a rag though, or some sort of sheath, because if it's rubbing up and down against other metal parts, it's going to damage the other metal parts, but it's also going to damage the file as well. So keep that wrapped up. Spare bootlaces. Often you're going to break your bootlaces out in the bush, I find, and just having a spare can save the day. Something so simple, yet very overlooked. I keep some rope in here. Start your bastard. This is what this is called. Also known as Aerostart is another brand. It's mainly ether, 25% ether, and what that does is just quit squirting the carb on an engine that's hard to start. Can really save some headaches. I've got a little measuring cup, maybe for if you're cutting willows or something down by a river, you want to measure out some glyphosate and paint the stumps to finish those off. Keep a little fire kit here. It's got some pocket knife in there, some fire lighters, matches and a lighter, big lighter. Just store it in this container. Always get a fire going if you want to. And on that note, I've got sugar and tea bags for having a cuppa. WD-40 is another thing I like to keep in the kit. This stuff's great, and I'm sure you all know how good it is. I've actually got another can here of inox, and I've been using this recently as well. And this stuff, I've been told, is actually better. And it is very good. I've been using this on my guns for years. But I'm starting to use it in place of WD-40 for other things as well. So I'm not going to negate WD-40, but I am going to recommend the Inox MX3 as well. It's up to you what you want to use. I like both. Keep a big thing of 2-stroke oil in here. I don't really use this 2-stroke oil much. I mix it up in the shed and really don't have to mix out in the field. But it's just here in case you need to. Spare thing of bar oil. Again, don't really use this. This is just an emergency spare. I keep a 4-litre container of that in the ute as well. So just if you run out, you do have a bit there, probably 2 tankfuls there to continue cutting for a bit longer. And I've got the room for it in the kit as well, so why not? Sun cream, self-explanatory. Here I've got 2 sharpening stones. This is just a square one, and this is a round one similar to a Lansky stone. Again, for your axes, they're pretty good. To be honest, I don't really use them much, but this is where they are, this is where they live. Marking tape, great if you're working with someone else. You can go around, mark the trees that you want removed, so there's no mistakes made. Many different purposes this. I do keep a bunch of rags in here. These are tea towels, medical tea towels actually, or medical rags. We use them as tea towels and rags in the shed. These are great to have. What else do we have in here? Steel wedges. Now these are by far the best wedges. They do have their drawbacks though, mainly in their weight. They are very heavy compared to the plastic wedges. And if you hit these with your chainsaw, obviously you're going to ruin your chain. But back to the point I was going to make earlier. If you're felling a tree and it's quite a large tree, hard timber, you're pounding the wedge in, and if the wedge is going to take a lot of force, you might consider using a steel wedge. The reason being is because the plastic can actually compress as you're driving it into the tree, your back cut, and it has happened, and not infrequently either, that it compresses, sort of loads up, really loads up on the plastic, and then spits the plastic wedge out at a phenomenal speed. Quite dangerous. Which is why the steel wedges are best used in those cases. They don't compress, they're not going to spit out, they're much safer. If they do spit out, which I've never ever seen one spit out, they're not going to be carrying a tremendous amount of speed just because they weigh so much. They'll sort of pop out and fall on the ground. It's not a danger issue, whereas these can be. I mean, they're very safe, but just keep that in mind. So, and also when your wedges are starting to get like this, you should take a grinder and clean up those, and I will after this video I think. The reason being is when you pound on that with your hammer, the rounded off edges can splinter off and it's a hazard for the eyes. These cyclone ones are really good because they have a bevel there and they tend not to round over so much. Also this one hasn't been used as much, but it's still definitely rounded over, and not to the point where you get a grinder and tidy that up, but you just want to keep an eye on it, and when it really mushrooms over then take it off with the grinder. What else? I think, well, a water bottle. Now this is not going to be enough water for if you're cutting firewood in the Australian summer heat, but it's there just for extra. I always carry a 4 litre big bottle in the ute with me. That's my main water bottle. This is just a extra water. And I think finally I carry a bit of food in here. So I've got canned soup and a can of baked beans. And I've got a cup of soup style things here, 2 in each one. And I don't really use the food that's in here, but it is stuff that lasts forever. So you might forget your lunch, or you might be out there for longer than you thought, or often you might be working with someone who did forget their lunch, or many reasons. So it's good to just have some food in there for those guys that might have forgotten their lunches or whatever. So I think that pretty much wraps up my toolkit. Let me know in the comments if you would add anything extra. If there's any good ideas, I'd like to hear them. This toolkit so far has met my needs very well. So yeah, let me know what you think. Now I'm not getting into chainsaws with this video, or axes that you might be bringing along. That's a completely different topic, and that would just make the video too long. And it's a big argument point about what chainsaw is best as well, so it's best to steer away from that. I use Stihl and Husqvarna. I think they both make fantastic saws, usually with an 18-inch bar. For wood cutting I find is the ample size, but I also run a 12-inch bar pretty commonly as well, because to be honest, the smaller the bar length you can use, while it not look as manly, it's actually the better option. It'll fatigue you less and be much more efficient. So if you can put aside your manliness issues, use a smaller bar if you can. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you do. And yeah, leave some comments to see what you guys have. Thanks for watching.